Hello, my name is Christian Bason, and I'm the CEO of the Danish Design Centre. And I've been really looking forward to speaking to the Creative Bureaucracy Festival again this year. And this time, what I wanted to share is a piece of work that we've been doing at the Danish Design Centre on exploring design toolkits, collections of methods, approaches, and tools, many of which are really tailor-made to the public sector. So at the Danish Design Centre, we are an independent, government-backed foundation, non-profit, that works to use design to unleash people's ability to create a more sustainable world, to innovate, to engage with users, citizens, customers, to build capacity for using the power of design to really transform the kinds of services, policies, systems, solutions that are put in place. So that's our role, and we've been doing that since 1978. So the rise of design as an approach to innovation has really been remarkable across the world. And if you look around yourself, you'll see that everything around you, of course, is a result of design decisions, at least when it comes to our artificial environment, namely our buildings, our homes, the devices we use, the furniture we sit in, the graphics we have hanging on our walls, the maps we use, and everything really around us. So it's remarkable how we act and behave as people, human beings, citizens, and customers in a world that's thoroughly designed. And that means there's a huge power in design in shaping that world. That's also been the case in the public sector. Of course, public institutions have also used design both in architecture to display power or symbols. Public institutions have been using design for logos and graphics and for communication. But within the last almost 2 decades by now, design has been embraced in many public institutions as an approach to crafting better services and seamless and joined-up services that are more human-centered. And design has also been used to explore and generate, creative new approaches to policy and policy making, more collaborative, more user engaging, more concerned with implementation and what it takes to actually transform an idea into practice, which is essentially what good policy is about. So when we explored toolkits and approaches that are available often in digital formats in a collaboration with the OECD's OPSI Observatory for Public Sector Innovation, what did we find, and what did the toolkits also tell us about the future of design in the public sector? And first of all, I would say that we saw that the tools and toolkits available around the world all circle around certain elements. So, and they're all connected to what makes design thinking and design approaches so attractive. First and foremost, the ability to find ways and approaches to engage with people, to involve citizens, both in terms of getting access to their everyday lives and worries and concerns and what makes sense to them as they interact with public services, or as they simply encounter different kinds of problems, but also ways of involving people in co-creation and the collaborative generation of new ideas and concepts that can be valuable to them. And finally, involving people, including staff and internal colleagues in the public sector, in iterative testing and prototyping of what might work. And first and foremost, getting feedback from testing small-scale solutions with citizens. We also saw that the toolkits are focusing on a future orientation. So it's all about how can we change things, how can we create a better future, increasingly also expanding into scenarios and foresight in some of the toolkits. Design also as a way to manage and deal with complexity You can say that design methods and processes can act as a glue that binds together many different competencies, professions, and disciplines, can engage actors across sectors, and really help navigate the complexity of both the way we've designed the public sector and public institutions, but not least the complexity of the world out there of how people behave, how citizens and other actors interact. So you can say that ultimately, what's attractive about design toolkits is that it's a set of systematic methods, you could say, for applied creativity and user engagement and systems change. And that's really attractive to a lot of people. So that's characteristics of these toolkits. If you take a bit of a broader view and ask, when we look at, in total, it was about 250 different toolkits that also are available on the OECD's website. This huge portfolio, what does this say about trends? Well, overarching trends we saw was a very, of course, massive shift towards digital government and using creative skills and design tools to really drive different ways of digitizing, building design guides, having a set of design principles, and really finding powerful ways of doing that. Another really powerful trend that I don't think we can exaggerate is sustainable development and sustainability as such. There's a broad picture of sustainability, which is of course the UN global goals, and using design and creative skills and creative approaches to address those really long-term, well, 2030 objectives of making and co-creating a more sustainable world across the 17 goals. And I would say ultimately design approaches, design thinking, really critical when it comes to goal number 17, the idea of partnerships for the goals, ways of working differently together. That's really where there's a huge resource in design as an approach to finding also unusual partners and engaging and connecting with them in addressing big, difficult, long-term goals. There's also the more narrow perspective on sustainability, which is the green transition, dealing with environmental change, with biodiversity, and not least climate change. And that's becoming more and more a key issue as public institutions also seek to transform themselves in a more responsible and sustainable manner. But of course also those that are concerned with making policies and services, solutions that can have a positive impact on climate change. Finally, I mentioned before this issue around futures and design as a set of approaches that work very well together with foresight methodologies, scenarios, but also increasingly there's a growth in maybe a rediscovery of speculative design fiction, ways of imagining new worlds, new states of society, and using this tactility, visualization, graphical expression in design, telling stories, placing people at the center or other actors in the center of a particular future. So when we look forward based on this and say, these are the trends we've seen so far, what are then the trends that we can see in the future? And what would be an educated guess of where design methods and tools, approaches need to move now? And where can you maybe, as a public servant or someone working with creativity in the public sector, look to design for guidance and for methods? Well, first of all, the notion of evidence-based policy and ensure that we create solutions, both services, but also broader policies that actually work for people is not going away. So the notion that by using rapid prototyping, experimentation, and testing, using design methods, building mock-ups and preliminary solutions, we can really learn what will work for people, is critical, and is needed also in a time where there's a lot of guesswork happening, and where facts are not always what you focus on in the here and now. So that was number one, in the evidence-based side. I think the other side is ethics, responsibility, and not least in a digital world. So at the Danish Design Centre, we've done work recently with industry and designers and agencies on responsible, ethical design in digital solutions, especially in a world where artificial intelligence and machine learning is really becoming core to how we digitize, also in the public sector. So I really strongly recommend you explore our new ethics compass, which is a toolkit for guiding ethical decisions in the early phases of digital design. So we make sure to take account of people's privacy, take account of legibility of how an algorithm works, and we make sure we don't manipulate and nudge people in ways that are not in their best interest. Finally, on future developments, and thirdly, I would say that the mission-oriented innovation is really becoming absolutely key. We see a growth in missions as a placeholder for articulating a long-term particular target or goal to achieve, and very much inspired by the work of Mariana Mazzucato. We see also development of toolkits and approaches that can help you navigate mission-oriented innovation in practice. There's a great piece of work coming out from Dan Hill and Vinova. At the Danish Design Centre, we are working on a practical guide and set of tools as well, design-based, and I think that's a space worth focusing on. We've decided, for example, to work with partners on a mission around mental health for youth, another mission around circular economy and transformation of business to more sustainable models, all of using mission-based approaches. Some final advice before ending on how do you best use toolkits. I think, first of all, when you choose methods and tools, you have to decide what kind of problem are we looking at. So choose the tool and toolkit to match the problem is, of course, key. You also need to think about what design proficiency you have in your organization. Do you have professionally trained designers or other creative powers, or are you sort of starting from scratch? Then maybe you start with some more basic kits. Think about combining tools so that you take the best of different kits rather than just using one connected toolkit. And then finally, remember, always adapt use of methods and tools to your particular context, and think about what will work in your organization. That was some highlights from our work on the diversity of toolkits in the public sector, drawing on design methods for driving innovation and sustainable change. I hope you enjoyed this short chat, and I wish you a really, really wonderful Creative Bureaucracy Festival here in 2021.